Star Wars has a lot of classic scenes. Some fans would cite blowing up the original Death Star as the best, and others would say that doing it again in Return of the Jedi was better. Still, other fans would claim that Vader's "I am your father" confession was the franchise's best moment. However, Star Wars' most iconic scene doesn't involve Vader, Luke, or any other legacy characters. And honestly, a lot of fans take it for granted. Without a doubt, Star Wars' most classic scene is its title card. Nothing says Star Wars more than a yellow Star Wars on a black background with John Williams' epic score playing in the background. That title card was the first thing that viewers saw when they watched A New Hope in 1977, and since then, it's kicked off each movie with pomp and intentionality. That dramatic first impression set a precedent for the franchise, and over the years, Star Wars has leaned into the idea that a stellar first impression is a way to ensure success, especially for characters and especially for villains. So here's a look at all of Star Wars' major bad guys ranked by their first appearance on screen. Newt Gunray kicks off the lowest tier of villain introductions. Most of the villains in this tier have a pretty simple introduction. Gunray was a minor antagonist throughout the prequels, but his first appearance was kind of subpar. Besides two soon-dead pilots, he was the first character to appear in The Phantom Menace. He appeared on a video screen and allowed Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's shuttle to land on the Trade Federation's blockade of Naboo. And after that, Gunray's character didn't get any better. He was Palpatine's groveling, sniveling minion until Darth Vader killed him on Mustafar. General Hux takes the next spot. Unlike Newt Gunray, Hux's character arc eventually took a dramatic turn. He betrayed the First Order and gave the Resistance information about Palpatine's Eternal Fleet on Exegol. However, his first appearance wasn't much better than the leader of the Trade Federation. Hux's introduction came right after Kylo Ren interrogated Poe Dameron, but Hux's first words proved that he was always going to be subservient to Ren. After Hux comes another First Order baddie, and that's Captain Phasma. Finn broke down on Jakku and couldn't bring himself to kill for the First Order. When his squad returned to Starkiller Base, Phasma was the one who confronted him. Her chrome suit and commanding demeanor implied that she had a high rank, but she didn't really do anything to demand attention. She simply told Finn to report for reconditioning. Mother Talzin comes in next on the list. She first appeared in Season 3 of The Clone Wars in an episode called Night Sisters. Talzin was the Night Sisters' great mother, and what she did immediately showed how she was going to be a unique adversary. Using her magics, Mother Talzin saved Asajj Ventress after Count Dooku abandoned his assassin. Then she gave Ventress a chance to get revenge. Talzin made Ventress and two other Night Sisters invisible and sent them after Count Dooku. After Mother Talzin comes Count Dooku. While it seems odd that a Sith Lord is so far down the list, it actually makes sense. After Maul's legendary introduction, Dooku had some big shoes to fill, and Attack of the Clones set himself up to do so. Everyone in the movie talked about how powerful he was going to be, but his actual introduction was pretty underwhelming. The first time that fans saw him, he was simply sitting at a table and discussing politics with a group of separatist leaders. Cad Bane's introduction starts a new tier of villain introductions. He first appeared in the Clone Wars in Season 1, Episode 22, Hostage Crisis. As soon as the episode started, the voice of Admiral Yularen announced that Bane was about to pull off a heist at the Senate building. The fact that Bane was in charge, and the fact that he was hired for a job at the Senate building, showed how the Clone Wars was setting him up for villainous success. Then Bane's team proceeded to get past numerous professional guards, while Bane killed one of them with his bare hands. After Cad Bane comes a group of high-class villains. Some of them don't do much with their introductions, but they all command power and unquestioned respect. The first one is Jabba the Hutt. He made a short cameo in A New Hope, but his real introduction came at the very beginning of Return of the Jedi. Seeing the grandeur of his palace and the power of his entourage showed how Jabba was a major player in the galaxy. Not to mention, he had Han Solo in his possession, and the rebellion hadn't been able to retrieve him. Next up is Moff Gideon. Din Djarin was busy working for the client in The Mandalorian Season 1, but Gideon threw a wrench into things in the season's penultimate episode. He showed up to kidnap Grogu with a large group of Imperial soldiers, and he clearly meant business. The only problem was that he first appeared as a hologram. Eventually, he pulled out the Darksaber, but that didn't happen until the next episode. Otherwise, he would probably have an even higher rank on this list. Director Krennic comes one spot higher than Moff Gideon. He first appeared at the beginning of Rogue One, and like Moff Gideon, he immediately had an air of importance. While he didn't actually do much, he was dressed in his white ISB uniform, and he was surrounded by a squad of elite death troopers. He was also a smart villain. He could immediately tell that Galen Erso was lying to him. All of that, combined with his pompous and entitled attitude, showed that he was going to be a big problem for the movie's heroes. After Krennic comes Grand Admiral Thrawn. He was a highly touted villain in Legends, but his first canon appearance came in a Star Wars Rebels episode titled Steps into Shadow. Thrawn's reputation preceded him, but unfortunately, he only appeared for a split second on a hologram. It was a tease, and it wasn't long before he showed off his tactical acumen, but the actual introduction was a bit lacking. Thrawn's live-action debut was much better. After a few weeks of build-up, he showed up on Ahsoka's Far, Far Away episode. When his Star Destroyer had lowered onto the Night Sisters' ancient temple, fans saw a whole army of Night Troopers chanting Thrawn's name. Then he emerged from among them and took his position of power. Asajj Ventress's first appearance really starts to take things to the next level. In canon, her first appearance was in the Clone Wars animated film. She was part of Dooku's plan to gain a partnership with the Hutts. Dooku had kidnapped Jabba's son, and it was Ventress's job to make sure that the Jedi took the fall for the whole thing. In doing so, she took out a contingent of bounty hunters and force-choked a clone while hunting down Anakin Skywalker. Even better than that was her Legends introduction in Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars. She threw herself into a gladiatorial pit and dispatched a number of opponents and impressed Dooku. Unfortunately, she tried to insult the Sith before Dooku violently put her in her place and took her as a deadly apprentice. Next up is Reva from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. While some fans didn't love her character development or the fact that she survived a wound from Darth Vader, she did have a pretty amazing introduction. Along with the Fifth Brother and the Grand Inquisitor, Reva was looking for a Jedi survivor on Tatooine when she started getting impatient. So she decided to make a statement and threw a knife at a bystander. The Jedi couldn't let the man die, so he used the Force to save him and revealed himself in the process. Then Reva tried to kill the Jedi before being stopped by the Grand Inquisitor. The introduction really set Reva up for success because it showed how ruthless she could be. So it's unfortunate that the series hindered her character for most of its run. But what do you think? Do you agree with Nute Gunray having the worst villain introduction? Do you think that Count Dooku should have been ranked any higher on the list? And was Reva's introduction worth the top spot so far? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and be sure to tune in for part 2, where I'll rank the rest of the Star Wars villain introductions. So make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.